As with everything that Tim Pool says, citation needed. Citation needed. I don't know. Maybe can just maybe a crumb of citation, just like a little teeny bit. That would be nice, Tim. Just once, one time. I mean, eventually we do get to that point. He's probably already thinking of what Marvel movie explains all this, and the answer is Doctor Strange. If y'all don't know who Dan Dix is, by the way, and that name sounds a little bit wonderful. Ooh, look at this. Dan Dix exclusive interview. When the mob takes over the police, defend the mob. Ver. Vancouver. Oh, as in Vancouver is doing a coup. Yeah, great. Yeah, so he's an anti-vaxxer. He's a 9/11 truther. He's part of a white nationalist group. He's a anti-trans advocate, amongst other things. So, I mean, if this is your experience or first experience with Dan Dix, he's an absolute curmudgeon of the highest order. He's a horrible, horrible human being. He's also been really heavily involved in Vancouver for the anti-COVID protests. And by anti, I mean they mean anti-government. They're basically protesting the government for not allowing Canadians to work. He wants Canadians to be allowed to go back to work as quickly as possible. Now, it's funny that he's allowed to do this in British Columbia because it's kind of like he lives in this wonderful bubble. In BC, we have a very low amount of COVID cases. So it's not the most dangerous thing in the world for him and the rest of his cronies to be going out in the middle of the road and protesting COVID and also blocking hospitals. They also block hospitals. They've been blocking ambulances from arriving into hospitals, doing the same thing you do in the US. But anyways, if he was in Ontario or Quebec, he'd probably have a lot more trouble and probably get very sick doing what he does. But he's from Vancouver. Well, he's not from Vancouver, but he operates in Vancouver. So it was surprising to me to find out that Mr. Tim Pool, of all people, saw fit that this was the person he was going to have to defend. The name of this video is Independent Journalist Arrested After Leftist Mob Attacks Him, Cops Arrest Him. So again, this is going to be Tim Pool talking about a anti-vaxxer, 9/11 truther, white nationalist, and anti-trans activist who believes that there's only two genders amongst a whole bunch of host of other weird things. So yeah, I have to hear Tim Pool's opinion on this.
Runs the social media Press for Truth. Was recently at a rally where he got hounded and harassed by a bunch of people screaming that he was a Nazi. Long story short, the police told him he had to leave, and he said, "For what? I didn't do anything." And we've seen these things happen, but now we're getting to a very, very dangerous. I mean, look, man, I hate to say it because I say the precipice all the time, but we're well beyond this, man. It's going to get bad. It's going to get real bad. They arrested Dan Dix. Now, I got to be honest. I know Dan. Don't know a lot about him, so I don't.
I can't put the beanie on without Tim Pool. Without Thought Slime here. Oh my. Oh no. Freudian slip. No, but without Thought Slime here. If I'm putting on the beanie, I mean, it's going to be a little bit strange, no? I mean, come on.
Really know how to describe him. I was like, I asked him about what happened. Apparently he got charged. This is in Canada, by the way, in Vancouver. He got charged with disturbing the peace. I believe they just dropped the charges. And
isn't that weird how Tim Pool knows Dan Dix, a white nationalist in Canada? I mean, even by Dan Dick's own video account, which, by the way, I don't often do this. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put a card, if you will, up there. It should be on the screen right now. But yeah, even Dan Dick's own video that we debunked and went through, he goes on to talk about how there's a lot of myths about white people and the white race, and that I just want to dispel some of those myths. I want to talk about Judeo-Christian values and how white people have created and crafted some of the greatest things, some of the greatest accomplishments have come at the hands of the white race. So here we are.
So I don't know to call him libertarian, conservative. I just call him independent. I don't know what his
libertarian, conservative, conspiracy theory, white nationalist. All pretty much the same.
Political alignment is. Now he's been criticized. They're criticizing him now. Totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. I don't think it's relevant to the story. This is from the Georgia Straight. They say, critic of COVID-19 distancing and George Floyd Memorial, Dan Dix, out of jail after being arrested in Vancouver. I'm not entirely sure why they needed to frame the story that way, but they say, Dan Dix calls himself an investigative journalist and a documentary maker, but his antics haven't always impressed the big tech companies. One of his vaccination videos was pulled from YouTube, and in 2018, his Facebook page was unpublished for misleading behavior. In April, Dix was once again raised eyebrows by praising a small group of demonstrators who gathered outside Vancouver City Hall to protest COVID-19 induced lockdown orders. I don't see what's wrong with that. People have a right to protest. You don't have to agree with it.
I don't see what's wrong with that. By the way, the Georgia Straight is the very LGBTQ friendly local newspaper where I live. It's free, and it's a pretty decent publication. So it's neat to see them on the screen right now being read by Tim Pool. I mean, I'm sure that's not what they envisioned their journalism would do one day, but yeah, here we are.
And he's upset some civil rights activists by condemning a memorial for George Floyd, the 46-year-old African-American who died last month in Minneapolis. Dix thinks that if people can show up for events honoring Floyd, others should be allowed to attend funerals for their loved ones. How is this controversial? How are they smearing Dan for this? This is ridiculous. Dude, you know what, man? These people have lost the plot. This is the point. Here's what this guy, Luke LeBrun, said. First, he lost his $800 GoPro camera. Then the police told him he's under arrest. Then the media smeared him. Some of those attending the demonstration didn't appreciate him being there. But before the evening ended, Dix was out of jail and promising to provide revelations of what really happened. So what? A guy shows up. He walks around filming. Some people start yelling and screaming, and the cops arrest him. Then the media writes what's essentially a smear. And the best they can come up with is, if protesters can protest, people can go to funerals. I mean, yeah, the logic is sound, right? Now listen. I don't follow, with no disrespect, I don't follow Dan's work. I'm not super familiar.
So I don't know if that's him just prefacing this, just like covering his tracks. Like, oh, I'm not totally familiar with all his, his collective body of work. I wasn't really aware of the anti-vax stuff or, the white nationalist stuff. That was a little strange. Or, all his transphobic comments. I'm not totally familiar with his 9/11 truthering. But, there is some stuff I like, obviously, somewhere peppered in there.
Covered stuff alongside him in some instances. Like, there have been several events where he's been there as well, is the way I can put it. So I'm saying this because I don't want to speak on his behalf. I don't want to tell you what he believes. Not here to tell you what his ideology is. I'm just here to defend the right for people to film, express their ideas. And in this regard, because of the mob, the police arrested him. Let me tell you how this turns out. This is scary times.
Wow.
You've heard me mention this story over and over and over again because
this, I don't even know if you could call this the slippery slope fallacy. This is more like the slippery water slide fallacy. I mean, one day, COVID protesters who, again, blocked an ambulance in Vancouver, someone who needed to get to the ER. But if COVID protesters aren't allowed to do what they do, the next stage is complete and total tyranny. And of course, as you see before you, Jack Dorsey is about to tell you what it's like to live inside a whale's placenta.
Breitbart reports. Journalist Cassandra Fairbank.
No self-respecting man, or human being, I should say, should ever start a sentence with Breitbart reports. Like, there was your first mistake.
Reports people fired guns at her house after Twitter death threats. They also fired fireworks. She tweeted that they found casings, I guess. Maybe it was a couple shots. I don't know. She was armed, hiding with her daughter, and then she's since fled. There's a big GoFundMe to raise money for her to get her out safely. That day, I was talking to a friend. They had doxed Cassandra, posted her address, and I said, it's only a matter of time before someone shows up. I did not think it would be that day. I know you've heard me talk about this, so let's bring it back to Dan Dix. Yeah. And I want to explain to you what's going on. I have seen this happen. It's happened to me. I was at an event where Mike Cernovich was speaking. I was just outside filming the protests, minding my own business. Some people then started screaming my name, but no.
Mike Cernovich, again, the man who has falsely accused numerous people of being pedophiles when he has no evidence to prove that, such as Vic Berger. As well as the director, James Gunn. That's how he takes people down. He also did the same thing to Sam Cedar as well. Yeah, falsely accused Sam Cedar of making jokes that he knew to be sarcastic, but he took them out of context and tried to get Sam Cedar fired for that. So, anyways, go on, Tim.
Nobody knew who I was. Then these people started going to the police and lying and making things up. I backed away from the crowd, stood next to security, and I showed one of the security people my press badge from a major news outlet saying these people are nuts. I have no idea what they're talking about. They were outright lying and just fabricating stories. It was insane. Like making things up about me. This one time he went out to this event and he did this, he did that. And I'm like, I've never gone to your events. I don't know who you are.
Exact same thing. I just want to quickly see this before he keeps talking about it. So this is the actual clip that he's talking about. First, he lost his $800 GoPro camera. Then the police told him he's under arrest. Dan Dix got arrested during his own live stream while causing a scene with protesters. causing a scene with, the Black Lives Matter protesters. Oh, so I was here for this.
Right now.
Why am I under arrest?
Dude, you're being a bit of a dumbass by giving them a flashlight.
Yeah, can you go find my GoPro?
What, your who?
GoPro.
Where is it?
You get knocked off. I just lost my friggin' GoPro.
It doesn't matter right now.
Are you with them or not?
All right, guys.
Put the cameras down, guys. I'm telling you right now, turn the cameras off.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yes, I can, because you're under arrest right now.
Why am I under arrest?
Okay. So what's Tim going to be saying about this?
I just came down here to film this one event. So that's what happened. They went nuts. Now, nothing happened to me. They told me not to worry about it, and they wouldn't do anything anyway. That's how things were a couple years ago. That was like 3 years ago. Now, what's going on? Now, when the mob comes, the police say it is easier to violate the rights of one person than it is to fight a mob. Take that to its logical conclusion with what happens with Cassandra. And here's what I fear. There will come a time when they won't just be banging on her windows and shooting guns at her house. They'll kick the door in. Someone will see the door get kicked in, and then people are going to slowly inch their way through mob mentality into the house, trashing things. So listen. It's not like a group of angry people will show up planning with tactical force to kick the door in, to run through, drag someone to the street, and execute them. That's not how it happens. It's much scarier than that. The mob that was attacking Dan Dix didn't know who he was. They were calling him a Nazi. He's not a Nazi. They were screaming at him. They have no idea who he was, and the cops arrested him. They arrested him. Think about what comes next. Protesters show up to a house banging on the windows. The cops get called. And the cops say it is easier to arrest the person in the house than it is to deal with the mob. Not only that, it'll keep the person in the house safe. It's probably what they were thinking when they arrested Dan. Oh, this angry mob won't stop. If we arrest him, they'll go away, and then he'll be safe, right?
I finally see where this is all going. It finally makes sense. Yeah, the whole slope has been slipped. I understand it now. Interesting, though. The people that he's choosing to defend in this argument, right? Obviously, the protesters, the Black Lives Matter movement, people who are looking for systemic change towards, incredible degrees of racism. They're the ones who might be instigating others to get arrested. So they're the dangerous agitators. But the conspiracy theorist, far-right, white nationalist of Canada, he's the journalist who needs defending.
Think about what's going to happen here. Here's what I think we'll see. Protesters have shown up to Tucker Carlson's house. They were banging on the door. Not a whole lot happened. Okay, that was crazy. Don't break into people's houses. We've now escalated about a year after that. Now they're shooting at Cass's house. They're going to show up to someone's house. One person will bang on the door, and then someone will kick the door and the door will open. They'll all be a little confused, but one person will peek in the door. Someone will see that person peek inside and think they're going in, and then go in and take a step inside. All of these incremental actions are how mob mentality takes over. And before you know it, no one had the intention of showing up and ransacking your house, but now people are like, oh man, everyone's in here, I'm going to run in and grab something. It's exactly what we see with standard rioting. What's scary about this is that it's going to come to your homes, okay? Let me show you this. I guess America is finally listening. Why George Floyd protests have spread to affluent white suburbs.
So when he said your homes, he knows exactly who his audience is, doesn't he?
At first, they targeted buildings. They were going after retail stores. Now they're in the suburbs. They've already attacked people's houses. What happens when a mob shows up and the cops are there and they scream, arrest this person for something they made up? They made stuff up about me. They made it up about Dan. Dan got arrested. How long until the cops actually arrest them? How long until law enforcement hands over these people to Antifa? Actually, it already happened. The guy in Minneapolis, and I'm not saying he's a good guy at all, definitely should be charged with murder. Third degree made sense. They upped it to second degree. They gave Keith Ellison, a guy who took a picture with the Antifa handbook, whose kid basically says that he's Antifa. He's going to be handling the prosecution. That seems to me like the beginning stages of appeasing the mob. Mm-hmm. So what happens? You will be a pariah in your community because you'll believe something. The mob will spread lies about you. They'll bang on your door. The cops will show up, and then they'll arrest you, and you'll be prosecuted by Antifa. Now,
cool. as with everything that Tim Pool says, citation needed. Citation needed. I don't know. Maybe can it just maybe a crumb of citation, just like a little teeny bit. That would be nice, Tim. Just once, one time. I mean, eventually we do get to that point. He's probably already thinking of what Marvel movie explains all this, and the answer is Doctor Strange. But clearly we're never gonna know. We're never gonna know what this is. These are weird, isolated incidents. I don't think anyone supports journalists being attacked. I don't think anyone supports journalists being shot at, whether it's inside their house, anything of that nature. But still, at the end of the day, Tim, these are very strange, isolated incidents. If Tim Pool turned to you, or he turned to me, or he turned to his what do you call it, affluent white suburb audience, if he turned to any single one of us and he said, "Hey, can you demonstrate whether or not black people are disproportionately killed by the police than white people? Can you actually demonstrate that?" We could go, yes. Here we go. I'm gonna go on my Googles, and there's the statistics for you. Here's the number of black people who were murdered last year. Here is the disproportionate amount of black people based on the amount of ratio of their population to the general United States population. So there you go. Last year, 2.5 to 2.7 times more black people killed by the police. Boom. Statistics, facts, no more feelings. But if he's going to tell you that they're coming for the journalists and they're recruiting them for Antifa, I mean, interesting theory, but again, Doctor Strange.
There are some very small suburbs of Chicago. Apparently now they are seeing protests erupt, but the people aren't even from there. And so everyone's confused. Outside agitators are going to small suburbs and protesting, and the residents aren't. What happens when a group of these lunatics shows up in your neighborhood claiming to be protesters who have the right to be there, and the police just cave? I'm not sure how long it'll take for something like that to happen, but it's happened in the past. Look at Robespierre in France. Off with their head, literally everybody. Don't care who they are. Gotta appease the mob, and everyone just went with it. I don't know how far away something like that could be, and maybe we won't be there. But let me tell you right now, they already showed up to Cass's house and shot it up.
It doesn't matter what I say. You can say anything. Maybe the worst case scenario in which they actually decapitate all of us could happen. I'm not saying we're there yet. Maybe they could decapitate all of us. Maybe one day. Or maybe that'll never happen. It doesn't matter. Either way. Frightening scenario that you may have put in your head, or completely impossible nonsense. Either way.
It was arrested in Vancouver. This cult ideology is getting insane. And what happens when the police department gets infiltrated? Now that's the difficult thing. So guess what? The other day I talked about the New York Times and this grand battle where they're going to be, taking over the New York Times, right? James Lindsay.
You might even say it's a war that goes on for an infinite amount of time. An infinity war of sorts.
Talked about how they infect an organization and then raise, hell until they take it over or kill it. They can't take over the police. Who wants to be a cop? Who can be a cop? The cop is entrenched. So what do? They're destroying it. They're destroying the police department. When that happens, there will be no one to stop the mob coming to your house. Minneapolis right
Pure
now
anarchy.
is talking about disbanding the police department. Here's my fear. With everything we've seen, what happens when the mob shows up to your house and there's no cops? They've disbanded the police. And then the mob says, off with their head. You might think it's far away. Maybe it is. I think it's dangerously close. I really, really do. Stories like this kind of freak me out. Let me show you one more.
Well, of course they do. I mean, if I had this brain and the things I read got suddenly filtered into whatever's going through his mind, most stories would frighten me. If you just read a story and you're like, well, that means they're going to cut off all our heads. The daily, reading a menu would be scary. If I was at a restaurant and I opened it, I'd be like, holy shit. Oh no, they're gonna flambe a whole bunch of us. I see it says duck confit. What about Tim confit? I mean, it's only a matter of time before they confit all of us. Yeah, I'd never go outside. I'd never read.
Mark Hemingway tweeted, the New York Times ran an op-ed that said, texts to your relatives and loved ones telling them you will not be visiting them or answering phone calls until they take significant action in supporting Black lives, either through protest or financial contributions. The cult is taking over, and it's only a matter of time before they show up to your house like they did Cassandra.
Yeah, it's just one thing happens, then the exact other.
I never realized we were so good at getting things done. Why are we even protesting anymore?
By the way, today the New York Times ran an op-ed telling people to withhold affection from their relatives unless they protest and give money to the anti-racism organizations. Where does this end? Money to fund for pay legal fees for black people who are unjustly arrested, imprisoned, or killed, or black politicians. Text to your relatives and loved ones telling them you will not be visiting or answering your phone calls. Take in significance with Black Lives Matter, either through protests or financial contributions. So this, I guess, is just what infuriated Tim to no end. Again, it's an op-ed, so an op-ed is not necessarily an article by the New York Times. It's an opinion piece that the New York Times has chosen to publish. But I understand why you would be upset, because I was very upset by Tom Cotton's recent op-ed as well. The thing with Tom Cotton's, though, is Tom Cotton is a pretty high-end respected politician, so giving his, I'd say, less mainstream, what's the word for it? I don't know, apocalyptic murder articles, a major platform is a little bit problematic. But again, this is not like, well, first this happened, and then all of a sudden it's the heads, and then they come for the heads. Like, this isn't the first step before guillotines.
Maybe it'll be in a year, 2, 3, 4,
Nice
5.
for
I don't know. But I was shocked to find out that it was that day they doxed Cassandra. They showed up to her house. I'm not going to sit around and wait for them to disband the police department and then cross my fingers and hope the mob doesn't come for me, or that I'd survive if an angry mob started firebombing my house. I'm not going to wait for it. Sorry. I don't know what's going to happen or what to expect, but I'll leave it there. Stick around. One more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I'll see you all shortly.
What is Tim taking up arms? What does he mean by that? That was pretty apocalyptic. Like, oh wow, okay, Tim. Tell us what you really mean. You know what a lot of this feels like, though?
Hordes of panicky people seem to be evacuating the town for some unknown reason. Professor, without knowing precisely what the danger is, would you say it's time for our viewers to crack each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside? Yes, I would, Ken.
That's basically what that entire segment is. I don't know if I agree. I don't know if we have to do that, but...
Hey friend, thanks for watching. Before we bombard you with all of our shameless links, we want you to bombard us. Do you have a worker co-op business or local union you'd like us to advertise at the end of our episode for free? So, if you'd like ears on your worker co-op, go down to weareserfs.com. And while you're there, join the Discord, because it's filled with righteous guys, gals, and MPals. Finally, come check us out on Twitch Live 5 days a week by going to twitch.tv/thesurftv. Yeah. To our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Tomospone, Nine Tails Cosmic Fox, Hans Josephine, and Corpse Harvester, we bow meekly for your pleasure. To our Knights of the Round Table, Josh Mickelson, Dylan Byte, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Clement Chetskoff, Cooper Pilot, aka the man with large balls, Political Puppy, Nick Davis, Ali May, and Alan R., we salute you. And to our many merchants and farmers, you have our undying loyalty.